Hi there, it's Dr. Patricia. How are you? It's my pleasure to be here doing a Facebook Live for you today. And when you join in, please put in your name and where you're calling in from. It's always great to see the participation, and you also get to ask your questions if you're joining me live, which is one of the major bonuses of joining me live here today. Okay? So I am Dr. Patricia Mills. I am a medical doctor, a functional medicine practitioner, a specialist in physical medicine rehabilitation, health transformation expert, and a passionate advocate for your empowered health. This is really important these days. We need more people thriving, more successful women, just killing it out there in every single way, fun, finances, family, and being healthy and feeling healthy really makes a difference in your ability to show up in all of the ways. So I'm here today to talk to you about a very important topic that I know many women and men as well struggle with, and that's with achieving and effortlessly maintaining ideal weight, okay? Because that's really what we all want, is to be at our ideal weight in an effortless way, right? We don't want to have to be restrictive with our calories and counting our calories and being worried about how much we're putting into our mouths in order to get to that state and stay at that state. And what the research shows is that yes, if you heavily restrict your calories, you will lose weight at first, okay? And if you keep restricting that calories, you will continue to maintain that weight, but then you're in a situation of deprivation. And you can see that when you look at people in like concentration camps historically, right? Where they were deprived of nutrients and calories. And yes, they got pretty slim. However, over time, what happened was that their bodies started to suffer because they were lacking the nutrients that go along with those calories. And in a situation where we are being exposed every day to a lot of options for eating, what happens is that when you reduce your calorie count, your body will adapt actually by decreasing its energy expenditure. So it's like a thermostat that's in the brain, actually, in the middle of the brain, in the hypothalamus. And that thermostat will reset to adapt to how many calories you're putting into your body. So here's the classic using calorie as a weight loss mechanism, is that the person will go on a low calorie diet, their weight will drop, and at first they're very excited. It looks fantastic. It feels fantastic. And then what they'll notice is that at the same calorie count that they've been having, their weight no longer is really staying in that low weight. It's starting to creep up again. Okay. And then in order to maintain that weight, that person, in order to maintain that new weight loss that they achieved through low calorie counting, right, through low calorie intake, they need to not only maintain a lower calorie, they need to go even lower on their calorie to maintain that weight. So using a low calorie to achieve a weight loss will get you there at first, but then to maintain that weight loss, you oftentimes, because the body resets the thermostat of, calories in, calories out, the body will adapt to that new state and will actually require that you need to eat even less in order to maintain that weight loss. And why is that? There's many reasons for that. One of the reasons for that is our hormones. Okay, this is what's not often talked about when we're talking about achieving and then effortlessly maintaining our ideal weight, is hormones. The body, the weight of the body is completely controlled by hormones. Yes, at the extremes of very, very low calorie intake and very, very high calorie intake, you do see weight loss and you do see weight gain. But what I'm talking about here is achieving and then maintaining your ideal weight effortlessly. And the way you do that is by drinking, eating, moving, sleeping, thinking for hormonal balance. And that's what's going to get you to your weight loss goal. And I'm going to give you a few examples, a few demonstrations of why this is true and how it is that your hormones can actually become imbalanced, leading you to the weight gain that you just don't understand. You're like, well, I'm exercising or I'm trying to eat well, and I'm still not at my ideal weight. There was like a tipping point in my life where it was effortless to maintain my weight, and now I can't. Or maybe even I've never been able to properly maintain my weight. And the reason is that, yes, there is a lot of hidden calories in processed foods. However, what is very under-recognized is the impact that processed foods have on our hormones. Okay, and if you don't take that into account, you're not going to achieve that weight goal and then maintain it effortlessly. Okay, and it's not about exercising enough, because if you exercise a lot, and yes, you maintain your calorie intake at a certain amount and you exercise a lot, what will happen is that over time, the over-exercising can actually imbalance your hormones as well. So what I always tell people that I work with, and what's really worked for myself, is that it's 80% what you eat and drink and 20% how you move. And that movement needs to be strategic, not overdoing it or underdoing it and cycling it through the month according to your hormonal fluctuations, okay? But today we're going to talk about eating for hormonal balance. All right. Here's a really good example. I can take carbohydrates, right? Carbohydrates are a large category of foods, and it's anything that turns into sugar in the blood. And I can categorize the carbohydrates into 3 categories. First category, I'm going to say we're going to call them fast carbohydrates. These are foods that when you eat them, quickly get absorbed by the body into the blood so that the sugar in the blood spikes very high, okay? What causes a fast carb to do that? Well, it's the processing of the carbohydrate that caused it to do that. So when you take a whole grain, like a wheat or a rice or a quinoa or an oat, and you turn it into a flour, that flour is like a fine powder. Or let's say you take a beet or a corn or a cane and you turn it into a sugar or coconut or an agave syrup, right? You take any of those sweet, the sweetness of those fruits, or those vegetables, and you highly refine them and process them, and you turn them into a flour. What happens is that when you eat that flour product, so it could be a gluten-free baked flour product, okay? It doesn't have to have gluten in order to cause this hormonal thing to happen in the body. It could be, it's a pastry, it's a cookie, it's and even a protein bar can have a lot of this stuff hidden inside of it. It's a pizza, pasta, sandwiches, croissants, cookies, all of these things, okay? And anything with sugar in it, that's added sugar, even if it's like an agave nectar or rice syrup, all of these things, okay? They will quickly turn into sugar in the blood very quickly. So the blood sugar spikes very high. And what happens is when the body senses this very high blood sugar spike, it pumps out the hormone insulin. Okay. And the hormone insulin, what it does in the body is it essentially turns off your fat burning capacity. Your ability for your body to burn fat is turned off when the hormone insulin is released. Now, let's say you're eating a diet that's primarily composed of what I'll call slow carbs. So that's your rice, your white basmati rice that has been properly rinsed, soaked, drained, and cooked. Your regular oats, not your quick oats that are soaked overnight to start the sprouting process and then drained and cooked. Your quinoas that have been properly prepared, your vegetables like your broccoli, your cauliflower, your sweet potato, carrots, beets, Brussels sprouts, all of these things, they're more in the slow carbohydrate category. Why? Because when you eat them, it's packaged in fiber, the way that Mother Nature packaged it, right? Mother Nature laws rule all the time. And you get a slow release of sugar into the blood, so that the insulin the body makes a little bit of insulin, but not too much, so you don't get a massive insulin spike. So when you don't have a massive insulin spike, you have a nice small insulin spike. You get enough of that blood sugar going into the body to be used as energy, into the cells of your body to be used as energy, but not so much insulin that it's turning off the fat burning capacity. So then you're able in between your meals to burn fat because you have been eating for hormonal balance. Okay, so that's the fast carbs versus the slow carbs. Okay, the slow-ish carbs are things that are like bananas, dates, honey, maple syrup. You don't want to overdo them either. Even though they are whole foods and they're not processed foods, they are still something that should be seasonally consumed and in small amounts. So again, they're not overly spiking that insulin hormone, right? Fruits come in the summertime when we eat our seasonal fruits, so that our body will store more fat for the winter. But if you're eating fruits, a lot of fruits every time throughout the year, you're in a constant storing fat mode, okay? And here's what's really, really interesting is that when you release the insulin hormone, it has this cascade effect on all of these other hormones. So there's a hormone called leptin hormone, okay? Leptin hormone is released by our fat cells, and it's released by our fat cells when we have insulin made. Okay, so when insulin is produced by eating, it kind of tickles the fat cells to produce leptin hormone, okay? And leptin hormone in small amounts, so small amount of insulin, small amount of leptin hormone being released, causes the body to feel satisfied from its food intake. So you eat your nice slow carbs, little bit of insulin, a little bit of leptin, you feel satisfied. What happens is, when you start to have a lot of those fast carbs with a lot of insulin, and then you get a lot of leptin, what happens is the body becomes resistant to leptin, to the signal of leptin, so that you can no longer feel satisfied with the food that you're eating. So now your body is like literally eating food but not feeling satisfied by it, because you've created this, accidentally, unknowingly created this hormonal imbalance by over-releasing the insulin hormone, okay? Here's a really, really other interesting fact about how your nervous system, your brain, is tied into your hormones, okay? Did you know that when you eat your food, and so you eat your food and you have your nice meal that you're eating, and it stimulates the stomach kind of expands, okay? So it distends, right, with food. There's a signal that goes from the stomach to the brain, telling the brain, I'm distended, I'm satisfied, I do not need to eat anymore at this meal. But did you know that in order for this signal to work, you have to be in a completely relaxed state? Okay, why? Because when you are in a nervous state of eating, like let's say you're in between, meetings, and you're really nervous about your next meeting and you're thinking about it and you sit down to eat, or you're sitting down eating while you're watching the news, right? Big no-no. Or you're eating on the go, you're eating in the car while you're driving, which is a very physically stressful state. Or you're like, walking somewhere and you're like, oh, it's lunchtime, I got to buy something. And you go and you buy yourself like a muffin or a sandwich or a pizza or something, a wrap, and you're eating it on the go, okay? All of these, the state of eating, so it's not just what you eat, but it's the way you eat. When you have that kind of nervous system activation of what's called the fight or flight, this is called the, in medical terms, it's a sympathetic nervous system. It's kind of like the jazzed up nervous system. It's the stress nervous system. If you're eating in any form of stress, that signal from the gut to the brain, telling the brain that you're satisfied with how much you've eaten, is turned down or off. It cannot activate that pathway telling you that you're satisfied, because the nervous system is like a very fine-tuned balance. When it's activated into like vigilance, it's down-regulated in its relaxation and digestion. So here you are, even if you're eating like a really amazingly healthy meal, but if you're eating it under stress, you cannot properly sense that it's a satisfying meal. And not only that, it causes your gastric juices to go down, so you don't even properly break down that meal. And now you've got improperly digested food going through your system, and that causes irritation of the gut, which actually leads to inflammation in the gut, and you can actually get inflammation causing weight gain in your midsection, okay? So you can see here that there's this hormonal issue, and then there's this nervous system issue, and this is the bridge. This is how they're connected, and this is just kind of fascinating to me, by the way, is that when you eat foods that trigger insulin, so the fast carbs that over trigger insulin, insulin goes to the brain and causes that nervous system activation to go up. That nervous system activation, that vigilance, that kind of like your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, everything is like on edge, okay? So if you're over consuming foods that overly trigger insulin, like too much of the fast carbs and not enough of the slow carbs, balanced with the healthy fats and the protein, by the way, okay? Then what you're doing is you're actually stimulating the nervous system to be on hyper alert through your food, through the kind of food that you're eating, which is absolutely fascinating. And the resistance that we can develop to these hormones, for some reason, the brain doesn't become resistant to it. So you're still overactivating the brain, getting the brain literally stressed out by the hormones you're triggering with your foods. And now you're creating this like vicious cycle, okay, where the hormones being released by the foods that you're choosing to eat and what you're drinking, by the way, like milk products, really stimulate the release of insulin, okay? So drinking milk, things like yogurt and dairy, they really do stimulate insulin. So fast carbs, too much dairy products will cause this hormone insulin to be over-released, which then causes leptin to be over-released, which causes us to become resistant to the action of these important hormones in our body, and they'll start to activate the nervous system to be on the hyper alert kind of like activated system. And in fact, the researchers who study this say that this is one of the ways that people can develop problems with blood flow. So when your blood flow is being our blood flow is regulated by the brain, by that nervous system, and when our nervous system is activated, the blood goes away from the gut, from digestion, and goes towards the blood vessels and like the muscles, so that we're ready to kind of run away. That's the hypervigilance kind of blood flow. So you get blood going away from like the skin, so you can get hair loss, right? Because you don't have enough blood flow supporting the growth of hair. You can start to experience hypertension, so the blood pressure being too high. You can have problems with your heart rhythm, right? Having arrhythmias. You can even start to affect your adrenal glands, which are important for stress management. By, you change the blood flow to your adrenal glands and even the blood flow to your kidneys. Like, it is a real mess inside of you if you're overactivating that central nervous system in the brain to go on that kind of hyper alert state. So how do you fix this problem? All right. So what you need to do is you need to really cut out any foods that overly stimulate insulin, which are your fast carbs. Okay. So fast carbs, again, are anything made out of flour, even if it's rice flour, oat flour. So gluten-free products are also to blame here. Okay. Wheat flour, any sugar. Processed foods generally have a lot of these sugars hidden. There's like 56 different words for sugar in processed foods, like dextrose and maltose and high fructose corn syrup, like all of these things, okay? And you need to sit down, take at least 5 deep breaths before you eat, and don't have anything stressful going on in your environment when you're eating. It's better to skip a meal. Literally, it's better to skip a meal than to eat on the go, eat in the car, eat while watching the news, eat during a stressful work event or a work meeting or something like that, or you're like watching a presentation and you're like eating and kind of worried about the presentation and you're eating at the same time. You will really want to cut out these stressful eating patterns. And when you take 5 deep breaths, it automatically shifts the nervous system into relaxation, away from fight or flight into relaxation, okay? And when you think about like the Mediterraneans, right? I don't know if you've ever been to Italy or any of those countries. They sit down for their meals and they focus on their meals and they laugh with their friends who they're eating with. They're very relaxed. They're really enjoying their meals. This is the kind of vibe you want to generate with your meal eating, so that you don't start to stimulate this hormonal imbalance that will certainly over time start to cause you to gain weight, even if you are trying to restrict your calories, because it's the hormonal balancing that wins in the end. So if you're like restricting your calories, but where you are getting your calories from are these fast carbs, over time, you're going to be overactivating that nervous system and overactivating that insulin secretion, and you're going to run into problems with your health, and your weight will slowly start to creep back up, even though you're eating this calorie restriction. And man, will you get frustrated, because not only are you depriving yourself of like nutrients for your body to stay healthy, you're going to feel like you're depriving yourself because your body's going to be asking you to eat more calories, and you're going to be gaining weight regardless, right? So this is one of the keys to sustainable long-term weight loss. Now, I've done other videos in the past about this, and there's other reasons why you can have issues with weight gain, including not being in alignment with the daily rhythms, because the circadian rhythms, the daily rhythms of our body dictate when those hormones are being released. So if you're eating too late into the night, if you're not sleeping properly at night, if you're getting blue light exposure at the wrong time of the day, like too early in the morning, all of those things have been shown to imbalance your hormones and cause weight gain. Okay? So when you are searching for solutions to effortlessly achieve and maintain your ideal weight, the solution is going to live in the world of hormone balancing. And there are many, many portals to balancing your hormones, many ways you can imbalance your hormones, and you have to be able to identify in your life all of the ones that are contributing to what's causing the issue for you, okay? So if you want to learn with me more, join my Facebook group, private free Facebook group, Wild Wisdom for Women with Dr. Patricia Mills, if you haven't already done so. Check out my podcast, Wild Wisdom with Dr. Patricia Mills. I go into these kinds of things, and also my YouTube channel, Dr. Patricia Mills MD. It's very hard to cover everything about things like weight, low iron and hormone balancing and all those things in short videos. So it really is about providing you this drips of wisdom, as often as I can, in as many ways as I can. So you start to layer on the knowledge, gaining the knowledge and retaining the information. And wisdom is knowledge in action. You have to put these things, when I teach you something, pick one thing that you can start working on and start putting it into action in your life. So maybe today you're going to decide that you're going to look at how much of your food you're eating are fast carbs, and can you balance it out with slow carbs, protein, and healthy fats. Okay, and that's another topic for itself. All right. So again, leave in the comments if you have any questions. I'm just looking to see. I don't see any questions coming up right now. Please feel free to put them in if you want. Put them in the comments, and also in the comments, put in any topic that you want me to discuss next time. I want to make sure that whatever I'm discussing is something that you're interested in learning, because that's the best way for you to learn, obviously, right? So thank you so much for joining me today in this Facebook Live. I look forward to seeing you in my private Facebook group if you're not already there. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'm always available to chat, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, or night, depending on when you catch this replay. Okay, bye.